When the Lao American Sports Hall of Fame was founded over a cup of coffee in South Elgin, Illinois, we could only have imagined what it would become. About 2 years into our journey, we've inducted 25 athletes, featured countless rising stars, built bridges between athletes in Laos and the USA, and made a few new friends along the way. The C4 podcast was born out of the desire to give the Hall of Fame athletes and other inspiring individuals a platform to have their stories told. In a special edition, we invite you to join us as we celebrate the release of our 50th episode.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode, not just another episode of C4 Podcast, but the 50th episode of podcast. And my name is Coach Andetka. I'm here with my co-host John Messina, and we were just talking about that the other day. It's like John was like saying he thought it'd be a hard time finding people, but little by little, one by one, everybody's just whether it's because of you guys reaching out and telling us of people or us doing our research, we got a good group. We got some amazing stories, with it being almost the end of the year and with this being the 50th episode, we just kind of want to touch base on the ones that really touched our hearts, right? So if you guys haven't already, please like, comment, and share. Like I said, if you know of anybody that would be a great guest, please message us, all right? Without further ado, I'm going to pass it on to John.
Yeah, Co, what an amazing journey this has been. The Lao American Sports Hall of Fame was literally founded on a napkin sketch over a cup of coffee in South Elgin, Illinois.
Starbucks, right?
Starbucks, or is it Panera? Sorry, didn't want to give
Panera.
It was
Panera. That's right.
Anyway, it was founded in a booth at a Panera in South Elgin, Illinois. We had no idea what it would turn into. And like Co said, when he originally pitched the idea to me about, kind of turning this into a podcast, I said, we're going to run out of people, because at that point we had like 6 athletes or maybe 10 athletes we had identified to induct. But sure enough, man, it just keeps building, and we've taken it in different directions. We don't only do athletes, we've been doing side stories, but we keep getting more recommendations. We keep getting people reaching out with really cool stories. And that's what this is all about. It's about telling stories. So we're excited to kind of have a quick recap here of our 50th episode. But before that, I wanted to thank some people that have been kind of helping us in various aspects of this journey, because we couldn't have done it by ourselves. So I'm just going to, there's no way I could thank everybody who's sort of helped in some way, either with the Hall of Fame, the podcast, or the Sea Games Athlete Initiative, which I'm going to talk about in more detail too. But I'll do my best to thank most of these people. So first would be Jamie Sukumtat, Coco Dirksvager, Lao TV Canada, Sai Patamavong, Sith Kutsarit, Lonnie Vongsavan, Boy Sinharat of Sab-ID Enterprises, Robert Saisana, Kam Slayman, Mandy Richmond of the U.S. Embassy in Vientiane, Ambassador Peter Heyman, Ambassador Sisavat Impachan, he's the ambassador from Laos here in the U.S., and his assistant, Mr. Salongsai of the Lao Embassy, Buma Tamavong, Sengpon Ponamat, Walter Sarnoy, Chiton Vong, the Pila Vong family of St. Phelia Convention Hall in Vientiane, Laos, Matthew Nola, our fellow podcasters as well, specifically Now in Session, shout out to them, wearing their shirt today, Dr. Stephanie Wong, who one of the things that's kind of come out of this is Co's been invited on several podcasts. So Dr. Stephanie Wong of the Color of Success podcast, Randy Kim of the Banh Mi Chronicles podcast, then my good friend Nara Sihavong, Lee Samai Vong Messina, for allowing me to take Nara's late night, midnight phone calls. He's in Hawaii, so sometimes he calls me very late Illinois time. But with that, I wanted to announce the cool thing that Nara, myself, my wife Lee, and some others are working on right now. We have officially gained nonprofit status for a new organization called Lao International Sports, NFP. The organization is a 501c3 tax-exempt organization. What this organization is going to help us do, you saw my daughter, you saw Nara's son, Dawson, going to the Sea Games. You saw several other Lao American athletes competing at the last Sea Games. This is going to allow us to create an organization to support that initiative going forward and making it an ongoing concern. We didn't want just when our kids age out for this whole thing to die. So we're created a nonprofit organization that's going to raise funds and help facilitate athletes from the U.S. and even some other countries, Canada, et cetera, that want to represent the Lao national teams. So more to come on that, but very exciting. Check out Check out the page on our website, LaoAmericanSports.com/LIS. The new nonprofit is Lao International Sports, NFP. So with that, we are 50 episodes into the podcast. In the Hall of Fame is a little over 2 years. Just some really interesting stats I wanted to quickly go over and thank everybody who's following us on Facebook, the followers of the Hall of Fame. Co, what would you think the top city in the entire world for followers is right now? Where do more people come from that follow us than anywhere?
Twin Cities, Minnesota.
No, Vientiane, Laos. We would have never thought this was kind of an American initiative. Vientiane is now our #1 city for followers.
What? That's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome.
Wow.
So we're reaching people all over the world, followed by Fresno.
That's our goal. I'm so happy to hear that. I mean,
yeah,
but,
it kind of cropped up. Initially, it was mainly U.S. people, and now it's people all over the world, specifically Laos and the U.S. But Vientiane, #2, Fresno, not a surprise. Then Fort Worth, San Diego, Wichita, Sacramento, Des Moines, St. Paul, Milwaukee, and Murfreesboro. Thank you to the folks in those cities for following us. You want your city to be on that list, encourage your friends to follow us as well.
Now, we're quiet in Chicago, huh? Did you mention Chicago? Chicago on that list?
It didn't make the list. What could I say? It's probably you and I here, Co. No, yeah, I'm surprised Elgin didn't make the list. That's just the top 10. Now, when you talk about top metros for listening to the podcast, Chicago is one of them. So shout out to the Chicago kind of Elgin, Aurora area. We have a lot of listeners from there, but also Dallas, Fort Worth, again, Fresno, Sacramento, the Los Angeles area. This is a huge area, including Riverside, San Bernardino, kind of lumped it all together, and the San Francisco Bay Area. So California and Texas listening heavily. We thank you guys out there. A lot of other people listening in cities across the country as well. So with that, Co, I mean, you had the idea because, you've told your story, right? And you wanted to create a platform for other athletes and individuals that have overcome adversity to tell their stories. So has the podcast, now that we're 50 episodes in, has it met your expectations? Has it accomplished your goal? And then maybe start off with one of the episodes that was the most touching to you.
Just having you hear you say about the stat about Vientiane, we're 50 in. It's kind of been, a part of me is like, wow, that's a lot. Even for us, right? And for the people that are involved. But just the fact that Vientiane's listening and they're #1 is like, man, this may just be the tip of the iceberg. This might just be the beginning of so many, so many stories that are going to be told, right? My favorite, this is really my favorite because it brought tears in my eyes, was Sam Liam, the 1989 Stockton Schoolyard Massacre. While not an athlete or sports story, man, talk about adversity and trials and tribulations of what he had to overcome to be the man he is today. And that one really touched me. I was probably 18 years old at that time. Being in Chicago, we did not hear about it on the news. The first big one I can remember is 1999 Columbine. That's the first really massacre that I remember hearing about as a kid. But then when you, John, told me about this, like, wow, and how it affected the Southeast Asian community, and I mean, wow, why was this story never told? So for you to be able to find Sam and have him come on, that was great. I was unexpectedly surprised, and very touched by his story.
Yeah, it was very brave of him to come on. It's not easy, right? I mean, you're talking about serious childhood trauma that he went through, and he was brave enough not only to talk about what happened that day, but the impact it had on his life, right? Where it led him to drinking and gambling and even, some challenges with PTSD around, like when, for example, 4th of July fireworks would go off, right? Yeah. He would start to have like kind of, I don't know what the right word for is it, but like an anxiety attack or something sometimes. And he had to work through that throughout his lifelong journey, where he set himself up to be very successful. Yeah, just kind of ironic. We were interviewing another guest, Vanna In, and I mentioned this thing, and Co, you said that you hadn't heard of it. I'm like, how could I happen to live in the area at the time? So of course it was like took over our news and we all heard of it. But I was shocked that you hadn't heard it, and it was one of the ones that was kind of just seemed like it was never talked about outside of that local Stockton, Sacramento, Northern California area. It was shocking,
And
but
I'd hate to say one of the reasons might be because we were Southeast
yeah,
Asian. I hate to say that, but I can only, that might have had something to do with
yeah.
it. It just
The news was
wasn't.
different. Yeah,
Yeah, the news was,
more
you
local
know how
back
the
then,
news.
maybe. I don't know. But yeah, but that's what we're here for, right? So we're done to give him the opportunity. He just, you know, happened to have moved from that area to Chicago, like us, and is living here in the area with us now. So we invited him on. It was kind of by chance that he had moved out here, and we were able to connect with him. So, but really cool guy. Has a bulldog breeding business. If anybody wants a bulldog, um, check out his IG
What
page.
what
So
episode is that, so our listeners
that
can
is
know? It's
episode
episode
11. Yeah,
11.
go back and listen to that.
Yeah,
Um,
guys, if you enjoy our podcast, just from the human side of it, watch this episode. I won't say too much, but there's one part in there. Um, he was shot, and he had tried to get into the school, and the teachers wouldn't open the door for him. This was a young child at the time, and the fact that he said that affected him throughout his life, like he thought throughout his life that the whole world had shut the door on him, and it came from that experience, that moment where he was trying to get into school and the teachers wouldn't open the door, and how that affected him. That really that touched me.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, incredible episode. Well, let's touch on another one. Another one that, I think Co and I both really enjoyed, right? Was just, let's say it's kind of different. Sam's was, I'd say, very emotional and touching. This one was just fun. The Pro
Yes,
Wrestling Roundtable.
yes, for
I mean,
sure.
we invited these three guys on, Sean Loud. I'm going to use their wrestling names, Jordan Jaw and El Psycho Gato. Um, and I mean, I feel like we've become friends with these guys. To be honest, we've never met them in person, right? But
Well,
Peter's Chantavon,
Peter
aka
came
Jordan
on.
Jaw, he's on
Peter
twice.
came on
Yeah,
another episode, right? Peter came
yeah,
on later on for a mental health episode, which I know isn't big, but gosh, guys, give it a chance, and if you have time, listen to that as well, and they'll tell you about how much we as athletes, as Southeast Asian athletes, the things that we're going through. It's the human side of it, right? I mean, it's great to cheer for the athlete, right? Until he drops that ball, and all of a sudden he's the biggest piece of garbage on God's green earth. So, but yeah, yeah, love that episode.
yeah, that was cool. So, because Co, I know you at one point being a professional bodybuilder were considering pro wrestling because
Yeah,
they kind of go hand in hand. So, what was it like for you to talk about these guys that actually talk to these guys that actually, gave it a shot?
it's great to see that they're going through with it. I wasn't able to. I think I was too short. In reality, I was too short and I was too big, if that made sense. Because once you go on TV, you're going to be larger than you were large. So I would have if I would have stand next to a guy that's 6 foot tall, it would have been this guy that's bigger than him, but shorter. It would just look way out of, yeah, it'd be kind of out of sync there. But I wanted to at a time, 1999. I was getting ready to go up to Minnesota, and Minnesota's big on wrestling, and train at one of the schools up there.
Yeah, yeah,
Even dyed my hair blonde.
yep. So, episode 34, folks. Episode 34. Check it out. Pro Wrestling Roundtable. Another one that this is one that I wanted to bring up. Actually, I'm going to put two together here because what this podcast is about is giving people the opportunity to tell their stories. And to be honest, a lot of our guests are not household names. Um, they're not getting their story told anywhere else. So there's two guys that came on the podcast, John Namichai and Rossi Cha. John Namichai was a Army Airborne Afghanistan veteran who became a semi-pro football player, now plays in the Hmong Flag football leagues. Rossi Cha is still a professional football coach, coaching a professional women's football team, coached high school, played, college, all that. What I liked about these episodes, Co, was that these are just, let's say, normal everyday people that you might run into at the grocery store or something, but they have an incredible story behind them, right? And this podcast became an opportunity for us to have people like that on, right? To tell their stories, which I think was one of your goals when you came up with the idea, right? Tell stories behind people that nobody else is going to tell, but that we think people can relate to, right? And people can learn from.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I was before this episode. I was never big on the military. Quite honestly, I'm the son of a military man, and I'm just not big on war and casualties and everything, right? And I'm here because of war, right? And it's there's war going on right now, and it's devastating. How can you really pick sides? So I never, really got to hear the mindset of a soldier until, and we've had a few on here. We had some Navy SEALs on here, and for them to share their stories, man, I was like, wow, really made me think about the sacrifice and dedication you had to have to be a soldier.
yeah, for sure. And what I liked about John Namichai's episode was, he was kind of his parents came over from Laos, right? Um, didn't seem like he kind of grew up. His father passed away young. Um, grew up maybe a little directionless. Ends up in the military, Army Airborne. Does his time in Afghanistan, all that. Always liked football. Always liked sports. Really, there was no way for him to go play in college or the NFL. That was, that ship had sailed. But he figured out a way to live his dream. And are the semi-pros the NFL? No. But you know what? He figured out a way to kind of live his dream and have his moment on the semi-pro football field, right? That
Yeah,
was sort of his Super Bowl, and that's what I like. And Rossi's similar. Rossi was a Division I caliber running back, um, but a little small, right, to ever be like NFL type caliber. But he found coaching, and so now he's passionate about coaching. So it just shows you that you could find a path to live your dream, right? Even if it's not exactly what you think. And that also these regular everyday people you see, the guy coaching your own kids, there's a story behind these people, right? Everybody has a story, and these two guys have incredible stories of overcoming adversity and finding a way to live their dream. So John Namichai episode 37, Rossi Cha episode 46. I'd recommend everybody go and
and
check those two out. Yeah.
John, and Rossi's ethnicity was it Korean American? You're
So
better at the ethnicities than I
Oh,
am.
so he's Khmer. So he's what they
No,
call Khmer Krom. So what
okay,
Khmer Krom is, Vana in is that also the borders that are there today, Cambodia and Vietnam, Laos, these were sort of carved out between the French and the Thai, right? These are not historical where people live, right? Like Thailand and France basically shook hands and cut Laos in half, took Isan part and put it in Thailand, gave the rest to the Lao people. Similar things. There were wars and stuff between Cambodia and Vietnam, and border got drawn. So he is ethnically Khmer, which is the Cambodian people,
okay.
but was actually born on the Vietnam side of the border in the Mekong Delta. So there's sort of like an ethnic minority of Khmer people that live in that part of Vietnam that were, when the borders were drawn into Vietnam, but they're not Vietnamese.
I had to
So,
laugh. I had to laugh because you know more about this than I do
well, yeah. So,
on this subject,
so
right?
I thought it was funny because we had Rossi Cha, who's a Cambodian who's from Vietnam. We had Lo Van Pham on, who we'll talk about later, who's a Vietnamese guy from Laos. And we had
Yeah,
Yuko, who
born
was a
in
Lao guy
Hanoi.
born in Thailand. So, these, yeah, it's just it's kind of a good, cool mix.
And
But
when you
yeah,
really
really
think
cool
about it,
story.
it is just one region. I mean,
Wars, kings,
yeah,
all kinds of interesting history over there. So we learned a lot about it after we interviewed Kenya Proch, and we talked about the Kun Khmer martial arts, and some folks, wanted to get in this debate with us about it being called Muay Thai, Muay Lao, not
yeah.
Kun Khmer. And I don't have a dog in the fights, but they're all cool martial arts. But the regions,
It's
yeah,
incredible. It's incredible what Kenya went through. And our first guest, professional bodybuilder Chris Dim, also Cambodian, and just the stories. Like, yeah, I was a product of war, but never saw anything like these
I,
two gentlemen had seen.
yeah. So that's something we're going to do next year. We actually had somebody reach out and say, hey, they'd love to see more Khmer guests or Cambodian guests. Some of the stories behind them, I mean, it's just unreal, right? What their families went through and all that. So for 2024, we have more guests lined up from Cambodia to give them a chance to tell their stories as well. So Well, what other episodes kind of touched you, Co?
Where are we at? I know I was not part of this latest episode, but the women's Lao rugby team. That okay? If Sam's story made me cry, if the pro wrestlers made me laugh, hearing this story made me smile. I watched that episode and I was smiling the whole way because the emergence of, you think about Laos and Southeast Asia and Asia, women, and they talked about that in the episode. Women are supposed to, get married, have kids, clean the house. And to hear about these young Laotian women playing a sport like rugby, and rugby is very physical. I mean, we're not talking tennis or badminton or anything. We're talking rugby. And so fascinating to hear how Megan Knight, went over there and recruited athletes to help them be a better human being, right? It wasn't about just being a rugby player. It's about, giving the confidence and all that. I'm really proud of that, especially like Lao women. I mean, so much more than just, you know, the typical story of, just go to school, don't even go to school, get married, marry the right guy and have kids, and that's just, there's so much more to us than that. So yeah, that story made me smile.
Yeah, and the cool thing about it is it wasn't about going and trying to create like a World Cup, World Championship rugby team. It was about basically giving people hope, opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
and the skills they're learning by playing rugby and by coaching rugby. Megan's big about turning players into coaches when they get older. These are life skills, right? These are skills like if you could run a rugby team, well, guess what? You could run a business,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or you could run your local municipality in a small town in Laos. What you'll learn about like just the coaching, the mentoring, the organizing, all of these things that you think, okay, this is all about sports. It's really not about sports, right? It's about giving people skills, opportunity, teamwork, team building, all of these things that they're learning that will help those local communities. And they're going out of their way to not just do this in Bingjing and like big cities. They're going into small towns where there's no sports other than maybe soccer and the dock, right? And they're bringing rugby, and the women have taken to it in part because the men over there all want to play soccer, right? That's
Yeah.
like what they want to do, but the women didn't quite have any, and so this was an avenue, and this was an opportunity, and it's really amazing what they're doing. Next time I get to Laos, we'll meet up with Megan. We're gonna do some collaborations for sure with the Rugby Federation.
Yeah. And what she say, it was like not even 50-50. It was 51%. I believe she said it was 51% women,
Yeah,
girls
majority.
are
Yep.
involved, majority. So
Globally, it's like maybe two-thirds men, one-third women globally. But in Laos, they've somehow kind of come out of the gate. I think because they built it from the ground up, right? Where if they had built it 50 years ago, women would have been like, oh, you can't go into that. You're not
mhm.
allowed to even do that or
Yeah,
something. So that's basically it's a equal men and women's sport, right? Cut down the middle, 50-50.
yeah, yeah.
So that's awesome. Yeah,
I'm,
that was
I'm
a
sure
cool episode.
I'm sure Megan would want to hear 51.
Yeah, 51. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
51. We'll give them that.
the
Yep.
women, yeah,
Yeah.
the women got to get 51. So
51. They're winning there. Yeah. No, that was an amazing episode. And also shout out to Phil Groves of the Chicago Hounds. Um, and if there are any Lao American rugby players out there, there's a transnational Lao rugby team called the Were Dragons. I just actually connected one player from San Diego with them to join their team. But if you're of Lao ethnicity, you play rugby, there's a transnational team that you could join where you can go around the world with other Lao Americans, people from Laos, Australians, New Zealanders, French, and play rugby together. And we talk about it in that episode. So check out the Were Dragons, and yeah, if you need help connecting with
where,
them, let us know.
how do you spell that? Where? Because I was listening to it and I couldn't understand.
WEAR Dragons, Were
W
Dragons.
A R Dragons.
Yeah, Were
Where?
Dragons. And yeah, so the guy who owns the Chicago Hounds Rugby Club here in Chicago, founded this club after he has a business consulting firm that does a lot of work in Asia, and he met some Lao rugby people. He loves rugby. His name is Phil Groves. He basically helped create and fund uh, rugby in Laos, and he created this transnational team that Tino Papavian that we interviewed played on, and other folks. that have been on the podcast that played on. So it's just really cool. It's a really cool thing. So yeah, Phil's hopefully we're gonna collaborate with Phil and Megan and the whole Lao Rugby Federation, Ving Samai, Suksavan, and all them
Yeah.
going forward. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome.
Well, it wouldn't be a recap if we didn't touch on the episode with Billy Soxotico, because Billy is a rodeo cowboy, right?
That blew
He's
my mind.
a
When you
bull
first
rider.
mentioned it, it blew my mind.
Yeah, a bull rider. And
Yeah.
he is still to this day the one that blows everybody's mind because I don't know what if your parents were kind of critical of you becoming a bodybuilder, but what if you told them you wanted to be a bull rider?
I would heard worse than crazy. Crazy is one of the words, right? Peabot. But like, yeah, it'd be like Peabot, to the nth degree. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And yes, listen to the episode because yes, the bull riding's cool, but Billy's the kind of guy that always paved his own path in life up until this day. He actually is now playing on a college tennis team, junior college team in California. He's my age. We're both born in 75. He's 48 years old. He's playing college tennis. He's getting his PhD. The guy is just inspirational to me, right? And he grew up. He had a rough go. Single mom, right? Dad kind of disappeared for a while. Long story, but you could listen to the episode. Um, and just paved his own path. Had to escape the gangs in Sacramento where he was growing up, so they moved to this small town Redding where he got pulled into rodeo and started riding bulls.
Yeah. Oh.
Just too incredible. Yeah.
You would figure he'd be from Texas, right? Because that seemed to be a lot more popular down there in that area.
Yeah, but believe it or not, so because I grew up, in the Sacramento area, and for a while I lived in a small town outside of Sacramento, like Billy. We had a lot of rodeo there in Northern California too. So
Yeah.
it's actually popular. I actually had a cousin who did it. That was also special about the episode with Billy for me is I had a cousin who became a bull rider, and it was just as weird for us. Like his mom is a first generation Italian immigrant, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's out there riding bulls. So not much different than Billy, right? With his mom being a first generation Lao immigrant, and he was older than me, and I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. Now he passed away like when he was right around 30, 32. So we kind of lost him. And so just talking to Billy allowed me to kind of reconnect with those days, I think, or something.
Yeah.
And just kind of hear the story. But yeah, really cool. So
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, a Lao professional bull rider, cowboy.
so that was episode 3. Yep.
Yes, check out that
Yeah.
episode.
So episode 3. Well, what other episode or guest really inspired you?
What's amazing is that this guest, where he's at now versus where he was at when we interviewed him, is like night and day. Lo Van Pham, Vietnamese, born in Pak Se, my dad's hometown. Grew up in Laos, speaks Laos, and a football official, right? A football official that when we first met him, he was doing colleges. So, and where is he now, John?
In the NFL.
Right,
He's at
the
the highest
NFL.
level. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, it's exciting. And it's for me that episode was special because here's the funny thing. Lo and my wife, they're both born in Laos. They both go to the refugee camp in Thailand, right? They both end up in Amarillo, Texas. Okay. And if you don't know where Amarillo is, it's up in the panhandle. It is a small city. The primary industry is meatpacking, slaughtering cows. So my father-in-law would like personally kill like 3,000 cows a day when he worked in that plant. And because those jobs paid really well, the houses were really affordable. Like I remember them telling me in 1980 or 81, something like that, he got his first job was $8 an hour. It doesn't sound like much now, but when your rent is $150 a month, okay, that was like, they hit the jackpot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A family of 5 can come and immediately I think just a few years later they actually bought a house, everything. So Lowe's mom also worked in that same slaughterhouse. His dad worked at Levi's. There was a jeans factory in Amarillo that since has been closed down. And my wife had a couple cousins that worked in the jeans factory, but there was this huge Lao community in Amarillo that was working in the slaughterhouse or the jean factory. And everybody knows each other. It's a small community. So it was just cool to talk to Lo about like that journey of growing up, you know, because I felt like, well, I'm hearing a little story about my own family and the relatives that I still have there, what they went through, how they grew up. But yeah, what's incredible we interviewed Lo. He was a college official. It wasn't much long later that he texted us and he's like, "Hey, I'm in the USFL when they resurfaced that football league." And then next thing
Yeah.
you know, he's called up to the NFL. He's talking to Al Roker on the Today Show. He's like, I mean, yeah, he goes from interviewing with us to like Al Roker. So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, we got him first. So
Yeah, yeah. So we want, but that's what this podcast is about. Because honestly, we wanted to tell Lowe's story, even if he never made the NFL, right? Because it is a cool story. He's living a dream, right? He's doing something he's passionate about. He's showing people that if you have a dream, if you're passionate and you put the time in, it took him decades. Let's be honest. He started after college and he only just got in the NFL a couple years ago. And he's like about 50 years old.
no, just
So
this year. Just
yeah,
this
yeah,
year.
2 years ago. It's his second year.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
second year. So that's what I mean. So it was a grind and he loved it. It wasn't a grind from the standpoint of doing something you don't like, but he started at Pee Wee. He went to high school. He went to the low level of college. He went to the high level of college. He went to the USFL. He went to the NFL. He did not skip any steps. He basically earned every spot. He went through the process, right?
Yeah, and
So,
talk about a profession that you have to be very thick-skinned,
oh God,
right? I mean, we're talking about athletes, we're talking about coaches, and we get a lot of praise.
yeah,
Referee, when was the last time anybody applauded a referee? An
never,
official.
never, yeah. And we couldn't have the game without them, right? Was as much as we all like to say, "Gosh, ref, what's wrong with you?" But without
Yeah.
them, there would be no game. They're human. He was in town ref in the Bears game. So my wife and I went and got dinner with him the day before the game, and then we went and actually got to see him play. That was incredible. But yeah, just hearing his story about what it's like to be down there on the field with all these great players and everything. Yeah, amazing story. So that was episode number 4. So one of our earliest episodes tended to be with people that we knew, like Chris Dim, Billy Lowe, right? Um, and they're incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that rounds out that our list for our top episodes. But it doesn't stop there, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, you want professional bodybuilders? We have men, women. You know, uh, mixed martial artists, boxers, and things that you don't think. A women's kickboxer, and again, you know, uh, Sao Lao, Jennifer Chantavong. I mean, you just don't hear that, in our daily conversations about, hey, did you hear about that Laotian, female kickboxer? You just don't hear about it. So,
So, just to wrap up on that, I wish we could talk about all 50 episodes, but we can't. Two others that I'll give really quick shout outs. If you're new to this podcast, you haven't listened to everything, check out also the one with Nate Singmani. Nate's the guy who created Hike and Hit, really doing something out of the box, his own fitness program geared towards youth. And then Boomer Savan. Boomer Savan was a Navy veteran that's doing these marathons and ultra runs. Those were two really cool episodes as well. Our most popular episodes, where thousands of people have listened, are Jeremy Merkin, Team USA Sepak Takraw coach, Om Pomavang Scoggins, the disc golf pro, and
yeah,
Tron Sipasai, the Navy SEAL. Those we got thousands and thousands of people listening to, and I'm excited about that. But I'd love for some of the people to listen to some of these other very inspiring episodes, like the one with Sam Leem and the ones we talked about as well, because they're every bit as inspiring as those top episodes.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, folks, so we are going to close out for the holidays. We'll be back in 2024. Like Co said, I personally told him we're going to run out of people to interview, but we already have, I think, about 20 people that are prospective guests that have either reached out to us or we have on our list that were referred to by people like you listening. But we need more. We need to keep the kind of the funnel of potential guests full. If you know somebody, whether it's yourself or somebody you know that would make a great guest, whether they're an athlete, some other individual with a great story of overcoming adversity, please let us know. 2024, we're going to do a couple things differently. You're going to see more people from Laos. We have several more guests that are people actually living in Laos and actually even other countries. We have a guest from France that we're hoping to bring on. We'll see some more Khmer athletes because we've had people asking for that. And then, more side stories about people overcoming adversity. Primarily, you're going to see athletes, but we like to have these side stories, people like Sam Lim, people like Vanna In, that have overcome adversity. So with that, Co, any parting thoughts for the year and about next year?
That's great. We're going to get more athletes from Laos. I mean, this to me, one of my first main goals. This was to bridge the gap between Laotians in the States versus Laotians, not only in Laos but internationally. It's just kind of let's bridge that gap and let's connect. And I think together we can do great things.
Yeah, for sure. And we've done that and expect to see more out of us with Lao International Sports NFP. More presences at SEA Games and other major sporting events. A lot to come with that. So check out the website, LaoAmericanSports.com, for all this information. With that, folks, we're going to wrap up. Have a great new year, and we'll see you in 2024.
Yeah, 2024.
The C4 podcast is brought to you by the Lao American Sports Hall of Fame. Visit us on the web at LaoAmericanSports.com, celebrating the first, inspiring the next.